Thank you so much, Kat. So thank you all for joining me on this lovely Wednesday afternoon. So as Kat mentioned, today we're taking a closer look at supported employment. So of course, just to get a feel of who's all in the audience, we have our very first poll question. So we're asking, what is your role? Are you a support coordinator, a service provider? Maybe you're a regional office employee. Or maybe you work for another state office. Maybe you're an individual or family member, or maybe some other role. So we're going to get that poll up here, and you will have about a minute to respond to that. So, Kat? There we go. You guys got a little under a minute to go ahead and let us know what your role is. Okay, so the time is up, and most of the people that answered are support coordinators. We have a few service providers and then a couple of regional office employees in there. So thank you for joining us. All right. So now you probably have seen this before. This is our little graphic that kind of shows that no matter where somebody is in their process of exploring work, we have a service to help individuals no matter where they're at. If they're trying to figure out what makes sense for them, what kind of jobs they might be interested in, or um, what jobs might suit their abilities, or even just kind of exploring what are the possibilities out there. We have career planning to kind of really take a look and kind of help guide us into what makes sense for somebody and what needs to happen to help that person achieve that employment outcome. For individuals that are really kind of stuck and not able to move forward because they need to develop some of those general workplace skills, those universal workplace behaviors that's needed for any and all types of employment. We have pre-vocational services. And then, of course, if somebody needs help with actually finding jobs, of getting connected with paid employment, we have job development for getting the job. And today we're going to talk about that support somebody needs with being able to maintain that employment, to acclimate to that work environment, and to be able to maintain their employment under support employment. The other service, which is brand new this year, that kind of touches all the areas, is that benefits planning. So helping an individual kind of navigate the waters and figuring out what their options are. And like I said, today we're going to focus on the left side of that graphic. We're going to focus on the support to help one learn and maintain their job, that supported employment service. So we're going to focus on supported employment. When we're done, hopefully you guys will understand what this service provides. You'll have a better idea of who would benefit from the service. You'll know what needs to be included in that request. And then also being aware of what things you need to look for when someone's receiving the service. So kind of that monitoring aspect. So now we have another quick poll question. And Curious to know, how many individuals have you coordinated supported employment for? So have you had a lot of experience coordinating employment or coordinating the supported employment for individuals, maybe 10 or more individuals that you've requested that service? Maybe you've had quite a bit of experience, but not a lot. So maybe it's 5 to 9 individuals. Maybe you've had a little taste of what it's like to coordinate supported employment. You've had 1 to 4 individuals that you requested, or maybe you haven't had any experience yet. So you'll have about a minute to answer that, and go ahead. All right, so time's up, and basically most of the people haven't had any experience yet. We've had a good number of individuals that have had a little bit of experience of coordinating it for 1 to 4. And then, of course, we have a few people that have coordinated it for about 5 to 9 individuals, and a few people that have coordinated for 10 or more. So quite a bit of variety in the audience. So now, want to hear more about your experiences. So put something in the chat. Tell us what your experience has been. Did you find it relatively easy to coordinate supported employment for individuals? Have you had some difficulties? What have kind of been your barriers if you've been having some difficulties? So tell us a little bit about your experience. Okay, so one person has kind of said they've only had experience doing job development, not any experience with coordinating supported employment yet. Okay, all right. What about some other people? Okay, so one person kind of stepping in saying, I haven't had any experience yet, and that's okay. I'd like to get at least one more response before I move on. Okay. So we've got somebody mentioning that it can be very successful if the job match reflects vocational themes and effective business partnership has been developed. Okay, so somebody mentioned, hey, one of the things that they're running into is that they can't get it through the UR process without exploring VR first. So yes, and you'll understand why in a moment here. So let's take a look at our support employment. So this service, H2023, is providing the assistance needed for one to learn, perform, and maintain their job. And we're specifically talking about individuals who are employed or have a pending job offer that is considered competitive integrated employment. So, and for competitive integrated employment, we are looking at a work environment that allows the person to work alongside those who may or may not have disabilities. So it's kind of that variety with the coworkers. It is paying them at least minimum wage or whatever the prevailing wage is. So, for example, some industries, we know that the prevailing wage is higher than the minimum wage. So we would be expecting that whoever is working in that environment is making whatever that prevailing wage is. And of course, as we all know, that those jobs also provide every employee with opportunities to advance within that industry, within that company too. So we're looking at that people with disabilities are having the same opportunities as other people, regardless of whether or not they have a disability. So then when we look at what does the supported employment service provide, what can it do? So again, this can be the support that somebody needs to enhance their skills. So both soft skills, those interpersonal skills, basically those work ethic, those universal workplace behaviors, but it's also the hard skills, the job specific skills. It's integration into the workplace. So again, we kind of look at like, are they being considered an employee just like everybody else? Are they embraced into that work environment? Are they participating in staff meetings? Are they getting to participate in social things that might be happening in the workplace, as well as work meetings? It might be helping people acclimate to the workplace, so organizing their skills and workflow. So individuals might have the skills to do each step independently, but as we know, sometimes it's putting it all together in how the company or how the employer wants to see the job done. So it could be development of those natural supports. Again, we want to maximize independence. So it's looking at natural supports that are available in any workplace, which could also include technology too. It could be increasing that job performance. So again, making somebody better, more satisfaction with the job. It's as much or as little as needed for as long as needed, as long as it's justified. So typically we're going to expect that as the person is becoming more independent, their reliance on paid supports is going to decrease some. However, we know that with some individuals, we get to that level where it's like we just can't decrease it anymore. If we try and decrease it anymore, sometimes individuals might be having more issues at work. There might be more concerns and things start to unravel. So sometimes we get to that safety net level that it's like, nope, we've got to keep this amount of paid support in, because that just helps keep everything even keel and calm waters. So new this year, we added in support to help report those earnings to Social Security and Medicaid. So now a job coach can assist individuals with getting their pay stubs and organizing their pay stubs so that when it comes to reporting that income to Social Security and Medicaid, they've got the documentation they need, and that employment specialist can also help make that report, help them with reporting that if needed. Supported employment can be provided one-on-one or in a small group, so a 1-to-4 type ratio. So now let's talk about that. Let me make sure here that I did not. All right. Thought for a second, maybe I advanced it one too many slides. Sorry about that. So now let's talk about the difference between 1-to-1 and 1-to-4. So group support employment, that's that 1-to-4 ratio. So a group of individuals, a group of 2 to 4 individuals are going to share that job coach. And typically it's going to be at the same place of employment during the same time frame. So it may be 4 people are working at company A, their shift is Monday through Friday, 12 to 4. And during that time, their job coach is there. So typically the individuals might be performing the same type of work tasks as well. So whereas with individual support employment, it's one job coach, one person. So that job coach is typically only providing support to that one employee at that one time. Individual support employment is considered the preferred delivery of on-the-job supports. As you can tell, it's highly individualized. It's one person, one job. So we kind of look at that as, being the gold standard. However, there are some benefits of group support employment at times. So group support employment could be useful as a transitional approach. So for some individuals that, may need to work on some skills to be more successful, to then move on to more of that individualized job, that group support employment could help that individual with developing both those soft and hard skills needed to be more successful in employment. Sometimes what we see with some employers is that they want employees to go through a staffing agency for that probationary period. So this could be an example where that group support employment, if there's more than one employee going through that staffing agency and going to be working at that company at the same time, where they could share a job coach during that probationary period. So those could be some benefits of using group support employment. So what does a job coach do, regardless of whether it's group or individual support employment? A job coach is going to provide the support needed for that person to be able to perform his or her duties, his or her duties and acclimate to that workplace culture. So the support can be provided directly to the employee, or it could be to the employer or even a coworker. So where that job coach is acting more as a consultant and providing more consultative type of support. That support could be in person. So you see the employee, you see the job coach, or you see the employer and you see the job coach. They are in the same vicinity, they're together, they're in person. But that job coach could be doing things behind the scenes as well. So that job coach could be completing a job task or a job analysis to kind of identify areas that an employee might need more support, or even to identify possible accommodations that person might need. So again, when we talk about, one of the goals is to help that person be as independent as possible. It's kind of exploring what natural supports are available and when can they be used and how can they be used to help this person become more independent. And don't forget, technology is also a natural support. So looking at what technology is available and how the person might be able to utilize technology to reduce that dependence on a paid support. So one of the things that you need to be aware of, and somebody had mentioned this earlier, that what they were seeing is getting it through the UR process. UR was kicking it back going, hey, what about VR? You need to address VR here. So support employment is offered through VR. So per our service definitions, if somebody is eligible for VR, VR should be providing the support. So we can't just say, oh, we're going to do it instead of VR. We have to show why the person is not using VR for the support. So that's one thing you have to be aware of. If you're requesting support employment, make sure you're addressing that availability of VR. Also, something to be aware of, not everyone is going to require paid support. Not everyone is going to require that supported employment. So we want to be cognizant of that. And then the third thing is supported employment in and of itself is not really intended to solely provide that protective oversight for non-workplace supports like PA. However, just because it's not intended doesn't mean we can't have that be a part of the service. So for example, if somebody needs that protective oversight, but they also need supports with acclimating to the workplace, with organizing work tasks and workflow, and interpersonal interactions with coworkers and others, then of course, you know, that job coach can be providing that protective oversight in addition to providing those supports needed. However, if we get to the point where the person's not needing those job supports, they're not needing assistance with the workflow anymore, they're not, you know, maybe they've gotten completely independent, they're not needing any support, the only thing that they need is that protective oversight, that's when we may want to kind of go, what else may we need to try here, what may we need to do. So who would make a good candidate for this service? So who are the individuals that are really going to benefit from the service? Could be someone who's employed and who's expressing a need for supports to sustain employment. They're telling you about areas that they're struggling, or you know, they're telling you that their hours are getting cut and they don't understand why. Individuals who might be struggling with something and they're saying, hey, I need some additional support. It could be someone who is seeking employment with VR assistance, but we know they're going to need ongoing supports. So maybe VR has mentioned that hey, we're going ahead and doing this, but we need to make sure there's ongoing supports lined up for when we're done. It could be someone who is receiving funding for career planning, pre-voc, or job development. And this is where we can be a little proactive in anticipation of them possibly getting offered a job or them getting employment through this process. We can say, hey, we're going to put about 480 units here just in case it's needed. And it kind of allows for that seamless transition so that we're not having a gap in services or making somebody wait. So one of the things that we know, a lot of businesses don't understand our system. So when somebody gets offered a job, they're looking at, you know, you're going to be starting soon. And that business is not going to understand, hold on, we got to wait a month. We got to get through the UR process. So this allows us to have that safety net there for us to do whatever's needed for that next step, whether it's requesting more supports or it's getting somebody else to fund something. That 480 units just provides us that safety net. So this last bullet really has to do with kind of using different funding streams. So something that they call braided funding. So when someone wants to use the Job Center's WIOA youth program, this is typically a paid work experience for youth who are between the ages of 16 to 24. There are some certain requirements for that, and each job center might have their own limits. But let's say the individual has connected with the job center and they're like, yeah, I want to do this temporary work experience to get myself in the door, to gain some skills, to be ready to get a different job. So if somebody is taking advantage of the Job Center's Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act youth program, then if they need that coaching support above and beyond what the program provides, this might be a good time to use supported employment to assist that individual. All right, so what needs to be in that ISP? So we need a statement of availability or unavailability of VR funding. So is somebody ineligible for VR funding? So VR said, nope, we can't help them at all. Or they're not a good fit. Again, VR telling us, nope, we're not going to be able to support them. Maybe they've already exhausted VR funding for this service. So please keep in mind, VR is not a once in a lifetime thing. It's not, oh, you used this 5 years ago, okay, you're done. If it's been more than 12 months that somebody has gotten help from VR with learning a new job, then it's a possibility that they can get VR assistance again if it's been a while and it's a new job for them. So service not being available under VR. So kind of that where I was going with this is if somebody's been in a job for a number of years, VR typically is not going to provide that long-term supports. Their supports are more in the beginning to help that person acclimate and learn that new job and then get out of the way. So if somebody's held a job for a while and they're just needing some additional supports, typically VR is not going to get in there and provide it again. So it would only be if they've gotten a new job that VR would provide supports. So long-term supports, also VR does not fund group support employment. So again, if somebody's using that group support employment to try and do it as a stepping stone in advance into more individual support employment, VR is not going to provide that group support employment. As with any service that we're funding, there needs to be a goal or an outcome for that service. So how does that service assist that individual with achieving that outcome? With that request, we need to make sure that we are aligned with the service definitions, that what we're requesting fits within it. So that the support provided is allowed within the service definition, that it matches the intent of the service. So specifically with supported employment, since there is the expectation that natural supports are going to be developed and that paid supports should be faded, statement of how that's being done. And then again, a statement of what support is needed. So how is job coaching helping the individuals? What skills is that job coach helping to develop, and how are they doing it? So give me a second here. Alrighty. So now let's do a little bit of some practice here. So Blane is 20 years old. He recently graduated high school. He's fascinated by cars and can tell you details about every car ever made. He would love to get a job working around cars. So he recently completed VR's discovery and exploration, where it was determined that he would need long-term supports to succeed in employment. So he is now receiving assistance from VR to get that job matching his interests and abilities. And they will also provide that initial job coaching that he's needed for that job. So VR has already gotten on board. They're saying, this is what we're doing. We're going to do job development, and then we're going to do that initial support employment. So my questions for you: would Blane be a good candidate for support employment? And what additional information would you need before requesting support employment. Okay, I'm seeing one comment where somebody's saying, okay, that additional information, how long is VR willing to provide that support for? So having an idea might be helpful. Okay, what else? What do the rest of you guys think? Okay, so we've got some additional comments. So somebody's saying, hey, it would need to be VR until they close the funding. But then somebody is saying, hey, since they're going to need long-term supports, yeah, we can kind of already be there. But when will VR fade out? Oh, somebody kind of mentioned, what are those soft skills that this person has? So let's go on and see what we thought here. So at this point, we don't have a lot of details about what Blane's job task will be since he's still in the process of seeking employment. We've got an idea of what industry, what kind of things to go for, but we don't have details about what he's going to have to do in the job yet. So we do know from the D&E process, from VR's discovery and exploration process, that Blane is going to need some ongoing supports to maintain his employment. So knowing that he's going to need those long-term supports, again, this is where we can be proactive. So in anticipation of needing that support, we could go ahead and request 480 units of support employment, basically saying, hey, when VR has ended their support, then we already have this in place. And what that does for you as support coordinators. So let's say, VR says, hey, we're going to go ahead and close this case April 1st. Well, we know it's already March 9th. And then the process of, oh, wait a minute, now I got to write that amendment. I got to get it through UR. Chances are it might be difficult to get everything lined up by April 1st. So by having that 480 units, now it's like, okay, wait a minute, 480 units over there, that's going to kind of help while I have a little bit more time to get more details and complete this amendment and get it through the UR process. So, but as another person had mentioned, if more support is going to be needed, we're going to need a little bit more details. What tasks are Blane required to complete? What support is he needing on the job? And somebody asked, hey, don't forget the soft skills. So the support needed not only to do those job specific skills, but also the support needed to be able to fit into that company. What number, how many hours is Blane working? So knowing a bit more about his work situation and his support needs are going to help with requesting above and beyond that 480 units that can be in place. All right, let's talk about another one. Amelia, she's 25 years old. She recently obtained a part-time job doing data entry, clerical type work. She makes about $13 an hour. She got the job with the help of her neighbor. So basically she helped her neighbor out, created a spreadsheet for her neighbor, and her neighbor becoming aware of Amelia's data entry and computer skills was like, whoa, we could use somebody like that at my work. So that neighbor basically said, hey, Amelia, we've got a job and I think you would be good at this job. So Amelia now works 3 days a week at her neighbor's place of business. She likes her new job and the work environment, but she's talking to you as her support coordinator, and she's saying that she's struggling with staying on top of the workflow at times, and that while her supervisor hasn't complained about it, Amelia is kind of concerned that her performance could be lacking. So, and she's also expressing that she may need some help with approaching her supervisor on that topic, that she's a little bit hesitant. So, question to you is, do you think Amelia would be a good candidate for supported employment? And what additional information would we need before requesting supported employment? So I've got at least one comment. Somebody saying, hey, maybe it's just possible she needs some time management skills classes. Okay, so maybe not support employment. What about the rest of you? Okay, so we've got somebody else kind of thinking that maybe she doesn't need ongoing support employment. Maybe she just needs somebody helping her talk with her supervisor. So maybe since the neighbor is already a natural support there at the place of employment, maybe the neighbor might provide that natural support in helping her have that conversation with that supervisor. So, and of course, somebody else kind of mentioned, basic job details, employer goals, information on workplace culture, benefits, possible conflicts, VR. So, some things to consider here. So, we know that Amelia has identified some areas that she could potentially use some additional supports. So we know managing workflow to meet performance standards. That was one of the things that she said that she struggled with. Also interactions with the supervisor. So even though she said, hey, I don't feel comfortable, I need some help with approaching my supervisor on this topic, there might be other topics that she has a little bit of difficulty approaching her supervisor on too. So we do believe that her current employment is considered competitive integrated employment. She works at a place of employment doing the same kind of work as others with and without disabilities. We believe she is earning the same rate of pay as others in her position with the same amount of experience. So kind of looking at going, yep, this would meet that competitive integrated employment standard. She needs more support, but like somebody mentioned, before we request support employment, we really should find out if Amelia is eligible for support through VR. So I mentioned she just recently got this job. So it's a brand new job. If VR hasn't provided assistance before, or maybe it's been a number of years, maybe they helped her with a job years ago, but this is a totally different job that she's doing. Maybe VR might be able to get in there and provide that initial job coaching to help kind of make Amelia feel a little bit more secure in her employment. Now, gonna throw it on you. What if we said Amelia has been employed for 5 years now, and she's just now expressing some concerns with her work? She's saying, hey, look, I don't know that I'm doing that good anymore. I was doing good before, but I'm struggling now. So putting that little change in there, asking what if Amelia has been in this job for 5 years? Does that change anything? So again, I'm going to give you a minute to kind of compose your thoughts and put it into the chat box. Let me know what you think. If just that detail of the length of time that Amelia has been in that employee, if that changed in any. Right. So somebody's like, hey, let's see what she needs assistance. Can we get more details about what it is she feels like she's struggling with? And then looking at, okay, would this be a short-term or a long-term support? And then, if needed, going and looking at VR, seeing if she needs support with VR, if it's just short-term, or, if we're thinking, hey, nope, it's going to be more long-term, support employment. So yeah, I think having that conversation, just to ask, and if VR says, nope, she's been employed for 5 years, we're not going to get in there and provide anything right now. Then again, document that in the ISP so that we can move forward with supported employment. So let's do another one here. Casey. Casey is a freshman in high school and has Down syndrome. She loves fashion and would ideally love to have a career in that industry. Her older siblings all have jobs, and Casey would like to have one too. Her parents have stated that while she is in high school, her schoolwork has to come first. But they're saying, hey, during the summer, yeah, you can have a summertime job. Her sister is a manager at a department store and has indicated that she thinks she could get Casey on there during the summer. However, we know from other experiences that Casey's going to need some assistance. So just because her sister can get her a job doesn't mean she's going to be great. She's going to need some supports to be able to kind of learn the workflow and be able to perform the job tasks, and ensuring that she performs her work tasks to the employer's expectations. So our questions: would Casey be a good candidate for supported employment? And is there any additional information we would need before requesting supported employment? I see one response. Um, Still looking for some more. So one individual said that she thinks that Casey could make a good candidate. Would need staff to keep her on task. Um, ah, Thanks for the other opinion. So if somebody's like, yeah, I think she could possibly be a good candidate, but what about VR? So let's see if I can get another response before moving on here. All right. So someone kind of asking, hey, would VR serve someone who is not 18 years or older? So again, this is where I think it's important to have that conversation with VR, not necessarily that you have to have that person go through VR's intake process, but you might want to pick up the phone and ask. So VR can work with individuals 16 and older. However, knowing that this is just going to be a summertime job, it's just going to be a temporary job, and she may be having another job next year, not necessarily coming back to the same job, VR may not feel like it would be a good use of their funding. So they might come back and say, nope, we don't think Casey makes a good fit yet. So just, again, pick up that phone, have that conversation. So like I said, what we know from past experiences, we know that Casey's going to need some help with learning work skills and making sure she is meeting her employer's expectation. However, we would need more specific information regarding what tasks she's going to complete. and what support she's going to need to complete those tasks. Since it's going to be at the department store where her sister works, you know, we basically have the assumption that, yeah, it's going to be competitive integrated employment. She's going to be making at least minimum wage, or what everyone else is that would be doing the same type of job duties that she has and with the same type of experience. However, in this situation, just because her sister can get her a job and just because Casey is interested in fashion, we really don't know if this is going to be a good match for Casey. So this may be one where it might be important to bring in the employment service provider and have consultation with them, have a meeting with them to determine whether or not they feel like this potential job is going to make a good job match for Casey based on her skills and interest and what type of support they're going to recommend for her. So also keeping in mind supported employment, since it is funded by VR, we need to have that discussion with VR. Like I said, there could be a very good chance that due to Casey's age and the short-term nature of this job, that VR might say, we can't fund this. But again, having that discussion, confirming that so that we can put that into the ISP and make sure that is documented. All right, so little statement about the outcome requirement. So new this year, we strengthened some language about what we expect to see from service providers. So in what we call the monthly retention plan, which could just be the monthly summary. So we're saying that providers need to be giving a description of the results of that professional observation and assessment of the individual and the needed paid and unpaid supports to sustain employment. We also want to see a summary of the implementation strategies to maximize employment, maximize their independence, use of natural supports, increasing job performance, and identify potential risks associated with the reduction of paid support. So remember where I said that sometimes, you know, we get to that safety net where this is the minimal amount of support needed just to maintain that stable employment. Kind of like what would happen if we reduce those paid supports even more. So in plain language, what we're looking for is what skills are being developed or still need to be developed. What does success look like? How are we trying to develop those skills? And what progress has been made so far? That, in a nutshell, that's what we're saying that the provider needs to let us know. So what do you need to feel more confident in requesting support employment? So as you go out here after this webinar, what do you feel like you still need to feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more confident in requesting support employment? And while you guys are composing what you think you need to feel a little bit more confident, I did see a question in the chat box that somebody was asking, okay, if going back to our example of Casey, if Casey was not able to utilize VR, once she graduates from school, would she then be able to access VR? And yes, typically chances are she could. So VR is aware that things change all the time. So just because somebody wasn't able to utilize VR's funding one time doesn't mean that's always going to be the case. Things may change, situations may change. So yeah, you'll as things change, you'll probably want to be checking with VR. If it's a new situation, check with VR. So I see that we've gotten one comment. So somebody's like, okay, need some job seeking consumers, identify those individuals who are interested in employment. So yeah, getting that experience, that hands-on experience, being able to identify those people. Other thoughts? Maybe some of you who have had some experience coordinating some employment supports, maybe you have some tips or strategies for identifying individuals who are interested in employment too. Okay, so I'm seeing somebody ask about list of requirements for report employment to compare and possibly talk about to someone. Okay. So good thought there. Something to get us thinking about what tools we could provide you to help you with having those conversations. All right. So just a reminder, Champions of Employment webinars, we hold this on the second Wednesday of each month from 1:30 to 3:30 or 1:30 to 2:30. Excuse me, 1 hour only, 1:30 to 2:30. So our next webinar will be April 13th. And then the one after that will be May 11th and June 8th. So again, just a reminder. So today we wrapped up the last of our deep dive into each of our employment services. So we started in November with benefits planning. Career planning was covered in December. Pre-vocational services was covered in January. And of course, last month we did job development, and today we did support employment. So if you happen to have missed any of these and you want to go back and see one of those topics, you can visit it on our website. So if you go to our website, dmh.mo.gov, and go to developmental disabilities, over on the right is a quick link box. You want to go to webinars and you want to look up previous webinars. So again, we started in November. So between November and March, those are going to be the Champions of Employment topics that were all specifically on one of our employment services. So don't forget, as you leave today, please answer those survey questions at the end of this webinar. So I do take a look at that. Your thoughts, your suggestions of how we can make these webinars better and more meaningful for you really do help me to make sure that you're getting what you want out of these webinars. So please make sure to leave me that feedback. And then anytime you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My phone number is 636-926-1229. You can also contact me via email at sandy.keyser, KEYSER, at dmh.mo.gov. And with that, I thank you all for taking time out on this lovely Wednesday afternoon to discuss supported employment with me. So hope you all have a great day and the rest of your week goes well. I'll see you next month. Take care.